When a person loses his memory and does not know who he is equivalent to a new life. And when a person regains his memory and knows who he is reborn. Zhou Yi was reborn. He was truly reborn. At the age of 30, he became 11. However, when the 11-year-old Zhou Yi completely recovered his memory and knew who he was, it was when he was carrying out the robbery. Yes, that's right, he is in the process of carrying out the robbery. Just now, he grabbed the brick beside him with one hand and smashed a middle-aged man on the head. The 11-year-old boy is already very strong. He smashes it 3 times with a brick. Even a head made of iron has to make a pit, let alone a person. The 35-year-old foreign man is 1.85 meters tall, the 11-year-old Zhou Yi is only 1.4 meters tall, but he not only smashed the other person's head with a brick, but also smashed it 3 times in a row. Because at this time, the other party was pressing him to the ground, kissing his huge head against his neck. This is child abuse, and even more so. Zhou Yi couldn't imagine this in the 21st century celestial dynasty in his previous life, but this life made him run into it directly. Before Zhou Yi regained his memory, although he didn't know who he was, with a mature mind, he was naturally not a child who didn't understand anything. So, the brick with water chestnut next to it became his self-protection artifact. 3 bricks were smashed one after another, and the other party naturally stopped moving, and he also recovered the memory of his previous life. He was actually reincarnated and reborn. It's too late to sigh about his rebirth, and it's too late to sort out the memories of these 11 years. Zhou Yi, an ordinary person in his previous life, at this time, aside from his pounding heart, he was only sipping on his nervousness. Because, he seems to have murdered. 30 years ago in his previous life, Zhou Yi could be regarded as a good person who followed the rules. Married for 5 years, have a son and a daughter, a decent salary and a happy life. In life, I occasionally take some money out of my salary and donate it to those in need. However, such a pillar of society was arranged by God to die from a terminal illness. Opening and closing his eyes, the past is not 1 night, but 11 years. And as soon as I opened my eyes, this happened. Looking at the foreign man who fell to the side in front of him, with red and white flowing from his head, Zhou Yi felt uncomfortable and immediately retched. Such a scene is not something that ordinary people can adapt to in an instant. However, adaptation may not be instantaneous, but suppressing the discomfort in his heart is not a problem for Zhou Yi, who is already an adult. What's more, now is not the time for nausea. He had to run, he had to escape, and he had to run far away. This is not because he murdered, but because he had to escape from here, to escape this 88-year-old London, England. The man lying on the ground in front of him is just a normal pervert in human society. He is only one of the many orphanages who abused children. In this world, there are more outrageous perverts than him. This pervert is Ryan Evers, the head of the orphanage. Zhou Yi is the child in this orphanage, and his current name is Ray Fasti. The name of the orphanage was named after the dean. It's not how powerful he is, or how good his reputation is. Because this orphanage was built by himself and subsidized by the government. In the 1980s, there were many such private orphanages in London, England. Those who funded them not only got a good reputation, but also received considerable subsidies from the government financial department every year. These subsidies were pocketed by the dean and government officials, and as for orphans, that was the case. At this time, there were very few homeless orphans in London, because the homeless orphans were sent to orphanages by kind-hearted people and the police. In such a big environment, child abuse in orphanages can't be more normal. Ryan E. Worth Orphanage is just one of many child abuse orphanages. If the employee who fell to the ground was a pervert who abused children, then Dean Ryan Evers was a manating demon. According to Zhou Yi's 11-year rebirth memory, he had some doubts that the guy might be the legendary vampire. Ryan E. Worth, a white male in his 30s. His appearance is stern, his temperament is elegant, and his gestures all show the aristocratic atmosphere. People like him are not only popular with women, but it is even harder to associate the word child abuse. However, in Zhou Yi's memory, at least 10 children entered his room, and they have never been seen again. Except for vampires, Zhou Yi couldn't think of any reason for the boy's disappearance. This guy's temperament is the same as the vampire in the previous Life movie. The difference is that he knows how to hide better than the vampire in the movie, except for a glass of bright red wine every night. Zhou Yi has seen Ryan Eworth drinking wine, and he sees him once a year. It looked very satisfied, like a person who was smoking marijuana. The point is not his satisfied appearance, but the bright red wine in this tall glass. A transparent mist rose from the faint smell, and this mist seemed to be unwilling resentment. Zhou Yi saw the appearance of the children who disappeared that day from the mist. The appearance was thin and unclear, but Zhou Yi knew that it must be the child who entered his room during the day. Because every year in these 10 years, there is a child who is very close to him, and his soul will appear in this wine. Once a year, 10 times in 10 years. Zhou Yi doesn't know who this year is, because he hasn't had a good friend for a long time. Maybe it's his turn this year. Today is August 14th, Zhou Yi's 11th birthday. 11-year-old Zhou Yi is a mixed-race child. Broken black hair, deep eyes, and a tall nose. His well-defined facial features gave him an elf-like temperament. Ryan Eworth believes that this is a gift from God, a gift that he only enjoys. This is also the biggest reason why Zhou Yi has been abused more or less by the children around him in the past 11 years, and he is on his own. Tomorrow night is when he sees Ryan Evers for wine once a year. But tonight, he was taken to the building under construction next to the orphanage by the perverted staff. Tonight's Ryan Eworth was not at the orphanage. He went to a dance party, so there were daring and perverted employees who wanted to eat him first. The dean of the vampire wants to eat him, and the perverted employees under the dean also want to eat him. The way of eating is different, the lesser of the two evils. What's more, this may be an opportunity to escape. So when the perverted employee quietly brought Zhou Yi to the building under construction, he didn't resist much. So there is now a scene of self-defense murder. Escape needs money, no matter the era. Zhou Yi found 354 pounds from the perverted employee. 350 pounds neat and new, plus 4 pounds of crumpled notes and coins. This is a huge amount of money, at least an orphanage employee will not have so much money. Ray doesn't think about the origin of the money now. With the money, he jumped over the wall and escaped here. With this huge sum of money in his arms, Zhou Yuxian went to the shopping mall a few blocks away to buy a whole set of clothes, and changed his clothes from head to toe. He was wearing a collared shirt over the shirt, a brown knitted sweater, and finally a thick, off-white coat. Of course, there is also a pink woolen hat that almost covers the eyes and covers the entire forehead. There is a fluffy thread ball on each side of the wool cap, which is vertical to the shoulder and collarbone, and the style is very cute. The bottom is a pair of thick girls' jeans and a pair of pink sneakers that fit. Zhou Yi was about to flee, so he had to hide his eyes when fleeing, so he changed into a girl's clothes. In this way, I believe that it is not so easy for Ryan Evos to find him. After changing his clothes, Zhou Yi went to the restaurant next door and had a nice meal. Then go out and get on a bus that goes far enough. Zhou Yi, also known as Ray Fastai, later called Ray, found himself changed. Just after escaping the murder scene, he calmed down so quickly, and even thought about changing clothes and eating for himself. Perhaps it was because he was used to seeing employees commit crimes against children in the past 11 years, and at the same time, he was often intimidated by the dean silently. If he hadn't already had a mature mind, he might have been distorted long ago. The purpose of changing clothes is to escape the police, and more to escape the pursuit of the head of the orphanage. He believed that Ryan Evers would never let himself go. As for eating, it's even easier. While you can eat a full meal to recover your physical strength, you can also calm down better. Because, if there is no calm escape idea, it will definitely appear in a short period of time. It was just dark when Ray escaped, and after eating, he changed 3 buses in a row, and finally got away from the of 11 years, Ryan Evo's orphanage. At 8 p.m., Ray had to get out of the car on a busy street. Because the uncle of the driver was already suspiciously asking him his name and address, if it wasn't for his well-dressed, he answered very calmly. He will definitely be sent to the police station by a kind driver, or to the nearest orphanage. The UK in August is not cold. Although there is a bright moon, the temperature difference between night and day is still relatively large. And at this time, the mall was closed, and Ray was very conspicuous when he walked alone on the street with the street lights. Just when he caught the attention of a homeless man, Ray walked into the alley behind the mall. The alleys of the big shopping malls in the business district will be very deserted after the shopping malls close. Ray walked behind, naturally, to get rid of the homeless person behind him. He knew what the tramp was going to do. Although he was well dressed, there were basically no houses in the commercial area. At such a late hour, the children who were still walking around here were either running away from home or homeless children who stole a good suit. No matter which of the two, as long as he takes Ray to the police station, he will naturally get some bonus pounds. The homeless man behind him was about 100 meters away, and when Ray looked back, he increased his speed and ran after him. He is a cripple, but he is such a cripple, even when sprinting with all his strength, he can't run slower than Ray. At this point, it was useless to pretend to be calm, so Ray sprinted forward immediately. 10 meters ahead is the corner, and Ray goes around the corner to the right. On the right is a long road, more than 300 meters. With such a long alleyway, he would definitely be caught up by the behind him. On the left side of the alley is a 2-meter fence. If you want to turn over, it is absolutely impossible to go over there without stepping on it. On the right is the back door of the mall, and Ray rushed to a large glass door just after turning the corner. The door was locked, but Ray, who was sipping heavily, was still standing in front of the glass door, with the palm of his right hand on the glass, and his entire center of gravity leaned forward. Anxious, he tried his best to keep calm, his deep eyes staring at the glass in front of him. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Just before the lame vagabond was about to run out of the corner, the glass suddenly disappeared, and Ray slanted through the glass door, and then tumbled into the corner of the door. At this moment, the homeless man ran out of the corner, but there was no sign of Ray in the long right alley. The little girl he saw just now disappeared like this. A rare opportunity, the homeless will naturally not give up. The wall on the left is high, and there is no stepping stone, a child of about 10 years old can't get over it. So he looked to the right, the back doors of these shopping malls might be unlocked, allowing the little girl to take advantage of it. By the time the tramp walked to the glass door where Ray entered, the glass here had been restored to its original state. The doorknob between the two doors was also hung with a locked iron chain. Ray can not only make the glass disappear for a while, but also retrieve objects from the air. Let the glass disappear, this is the discovery of his adventure just now. He was also in a hurry, otherwise he wouldn't think he could make the glass disappear. Because he can take things out of the air, he feels that he should also make the glass disappear. The teleportation was when the perverted employee pressed him to the ground and kissed his neck. In a hurry, his right hand wanted to grab a brick in the distance to protect himself, so the brick flew directly into his hand, and this was the fatal knock on the head. He was in a hurry just now, so the glass disappeared for a while by his will. Fortunately, he succeeded, otherwise he would be caught at the police station to exchange money for his life, and then sent back to the orphanage. Ray doesn't think he has a second chance to escape. Angrily, he suppressed his laughter heartlessly. Because he found out that he has superpowers. To be able to take things from the air and make the glass disappear out of thin air, this is his superpower. Maybe he has other undiscovered abilities, whether he has them or not, just with these two abilities, he won't starve to death. As long as he is given a chance to grow up, even without superpowers, he can live a wonderful life in this life. This is the self-confidence of those who have passed through rebirth, not to mention that this is basically in line with the real world, the United Kingdom in the 1980s. At this time, Ray is like a prophet, knowing the future situation, even if it is a rough situation, he can benefit a lot from it. In addition to being excited, after getting used to the darkness, Ray went to the area where the bedding was sold to rest. Because there are generally ready-made, comfortable and soft big beds, sleeping here will at least not get cold. After escaping for so long, Ray lay down on the bed and fell asleep soon after being physically and mentally exhausted. The next day, when the sky just dawned, Ray woke up. He woke up early because he had to wake up early. If he's caught sneaking into the mall, it's another trouble. The dream last night was very real, not only in past lives, but also in this life. The memories of past and present lives are intertwined dreams, giving Ray an illusory and unreal feeling. The side Ray dressed in a hurry, and just as he was about to leave, he found a letter. A seemingly ordinary letter, the envelope is folded from a piece of parchment, which is placed on top of the quilt. It was hard for Ray to believe that he didn't find it before he fell asleep. There is a pattern above the front of the envelope, as well as a lacquer seal. Turning over the envelope, Ray found the address written on the back, 17 Market Street, Burlington, Shop Number 4, Mr. Ray Fasty. Ray was surprised that the address of the letter was so accurate. I only got here yesterday, and I received a letter today. Burlington Market Street, this big address is naturally correct. As for whether this is the fourth store, Ray is not very clear. But the letter was obviously addressed to him, because his name was written on it. There is a feeling of déjà vu. Ray turned his head to look around, looked at the large shopping mall with no one, tore open the envelope in surprise, and took out the letter inside. Dear Mr. Fasty, we are honored to inform you that you have been admitted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Ray finished reading the letter with some trembling. As a modern person who has been reborn through time, if he doesn't know what this letter is about after reading this, then he must be out. Although Harry Potter has been over for many years and the plot content has been blurred, the words Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry are clear. Ray originally thought that he was just reborn back to a parallel world in the 1980s, England. He didn't think that this place turned out to be the magical world of Harry Potter. A notice, a must-have list for new students, a ticket to King's Cross Station, 9 3/4, and a map of Diagon Alley. Harry Potter. Then, my superpower is actually magic. Surprised, Ray instantly defined his superpowers. The world of Harry Potter is a magical world, where there are not only wizards, dragons, werewolves, but also various magical creatures and vampires. Ryan Evos is a vampire, and a vampire that only haunts during the day. Because he has a vampire treasure in his hand, the day trip ring. This is still the arrogant Ryan E. Worth, who said it to Ray himself. Once a year, Ray is called into his room on the night after his birthday, always attracted by the day ring on his hand. The lustful Ryan E. Worth looked at him with fiery eyes, and said cryptically, "Wait until you become an adult and offer your blood to resurrect. I can share it with you and become a man who can live under the Sunday people." Before fully recovering his memory, Ray couldn't understand. But now that I think about it, Ryan Evos is a vampire with a sundial ring. Abandoning this fixed idea in his heart, Ray left the mall after washing up in a hurry. The timing of his departure was good, just before the mall employees entered. At this time, there were already pedestrians on the street, and there were groups of or alone children, so naturally he would no longer stand out. Since this is the world of Harry Potter, Ray also prepares to go to the Leaky Cauldron according to the guide map. And when Ray just left the mall, walked around the corner and looked back to see if anyone was following him, he glanced at a familiar figure and entered the gate of the mall. Ryan E. Worth, director of the orphanage. Seeing him, Ray took a deep breath. This guy made him feel like a monster that eats people and doesn't spit out bones. Whenever Ryan Evers got close, it made him shudder. Ray hurriedly retracted his body, not daring to peek again. Because Ryan Evos suddenly stopped at this time, he seemed to be aware of the peeking gaze. As if, not sure. After a little hesitation, Ryan Evers finally walked through the mall gate. Ray didn't dare to delay, and immediately ran to the other side of the street and boarded the double-decker bus. And not long after Ray got on the bus, Ryan Evos had come to the corner he was looking at earlier, with an angry expression, leaving unintentionally. Or escape on purpose. Ryan Evers punched the wall at the corner, and the ring on the of his right hand hit the wall with a crisp sound. The punch was so powerful that it smashed the bricks and raised a burst of dust. Despite this, his fingers were not scratched at all, and the ring on his was not deformed at all. Ray changed 3 or 2 buses and finally arrived at Charles Cross Road in Westminster, the most historic old street in London. The old street has the laid-back atmosphere in the gaps of the metropolis. There is no lack of young and modern atmosphere, but also the elegance of the old city. Here, there are all kinds of shops and shops. According to the guide, the Leaky Cauldron Bar is located deep in the old street, between a record store and a bookstore. It's almost noon now, and all kinds of tourists are walking on the old street. At this time, Ray also became one of them. In the last life, he didn't have time to travel here. This is the first time he came here, and he was attracted by this old street full of art and history. Controlling his mentality of wanting to play, Ray finally found the Leaky Cauldron. It wasn't until this moment that he completely believed the contents of the letter. This was really the world of Harry Potter. The Leaky Cauldron, a small entrance, is only 2 doors away between the 2 storefronts. On the left is a sign of the Leaky Cauldron, and on the right is a simple door. This kind of storefront is an alternative in this street. Because of the heavy sense of history, it is absolutely unforgettable at a glance. However, people without magic can't see this bar at all. In other words, only wizards, or those who have the qualifications to become wizards, can see and enter. After calming down, Ray stepped forward and pushed open the old door, then walked in. The environment in the bar is very dark and smoky. In broad daylight, candles need to be lit to illuminate it. The old long table, the mottled walls, the dim sunlight streaming through the windows on the high walls. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. The air was filled with the smell of beer swill, and the violin played softly. When Ray opened the door and came in, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. The bar is where adults should come, and Ray is only an 11-year-old child. He shouldn't have come, at least he shouldn't come alone, he has to be led by an adult. Leaky Cauldron, Muggles can't see, let alone enter. At this time, Ray's ability to come in only shows one problem: he is a little wizard. The bar is old and dirty. After Ray came in, he tried his best to keep smiling and calm, and his relaxed look made everyone think that he was not a little wizard who came in by chance, but came in with a purpose. The conversation continued after a pause. Those wearing tall hats and dressed in various styles continued to talk to each other after being surprised. Perhaps, except for Harry Potter, any other children who enter here can't attract too much attention from them. Climbing onto the high stool in front of the bar, the red-faced boss Tom, just after Ray sat down, said with a smile, "Miss, we don't serve alcohol to minors here." Tom is dressed in a retro style. It can be said that the people in the whole bar are dressed in a retro style of the 19th century. After Ray sat down, he looked at the boss Tom in front of him, a little embarrassed. He immediately took off the woolen cap he was wearing, and asked in a childish voice, "Sir, I don't want alcohol." "Excuse me, can I use pounds sterling here?" "There is no galleon, no nat, and Ray only has pounds." Unexpectedly, the little girl in front of me turned out to be a boy. After being stunned for a while, the boss, Tom, happily replied, "Of course, sir." Tom has seen many young wizards from Muggle families in his shop being brought to him by guides and then into Diagon Alley. In fact, to put it more bluntly, the Leaky Cauldron is the outpost of the wizarding world and the Muggle world. And Tom is actually a half Hogwarts student receptionist. "Where's your leader, my child?" Tom asked a question with great interest to the 11-year-old boy in front of him. "Leader?" Ray was stunned in an instant, and he didn't seem to have encountered any guides. "It's the teacher who brought you into Diagon Alley, isn't it?" Tom saw Ray's confused expression. However, just because he could see clearly, he naturally had some doubts, so no? These 3 words have a higher pitch. "I am an orphan." Ray sighed and smiled wryly on his face. No, boy, you don't understand what I mean. Every little Muggle-born wizard has a teacher who will lead the way. Since you're an orphan, there should be extra relief money." Tom explained carefully, while pouring a glass of sweet and sour juice for Ray. "Alms? Leader?" Ray looked at Tom in front of him with mixed feelings. "I am an orphan. There is no need to doubt that. Now not only is there no leader, but the key is that I have not even seen the relief fund. Sir, can you let me go to Diagon Alley?" A little disappointed, but Ray doesn't care too much about it. Compared with the leader, what Ray wanted was the dole. "Okay, drink this drink first, and then I'll take you there." Tom no longer struggled with this issue. Although a little wizard who was new to Hogwarts without a guide was rare, it wasn't a big deal. Ray has found the place to stay, and he can stay at the Leaky Cauldron until September 1st. Of course, this all requires money. Fortunately, he had enough pounds on him, and old Tom kindly exchanged galleons for himself. 25 galleons, 13 Seco, and 20 nut, this is the wizard gold coin exchanged for the money left in Ray's hand. Although Tom is a good man, he just likes to take care of himself. Even the glass of juice, he even counted the cost. For this, Ray could only helplessly smile. Although there is not much money in hand, after arriving at Hogwarts, thinking that he should be able to receive the orphan's relief, he will no longer struggle with this issue. When the brick wall began to spin, Ray clasped his hands, feeling somewhat excited. "Magic, it is really amazing, these bricks that are rotated and removed seem to have life." Tom smiled and gestured to Ray, and warned Ray that Nocturne Alley was on the right-hand side of the entrance, and it was not too late when he came back. Thanks to Tom's kindness, Ray walked into Diagon Alley. Diagon Alley is really lively, especially during the school season. There are all kinds of people, bustling people, adults dressed in retro and robes, and children who buy school supplies. Ray also walked into the crowd and started looking for Ollivander's wand shop in Diagon Alley. He decided to buy wands first, and then sell other things. The magic wand, if there is no accident, will definitely accompany him for the rest of his life. As a person who has seen Harry Potter in his previous life, the first thing he wants to know when entering the magical world of magic is what kind of wand he will have. Ollivander's wand shop is small and shabby, with a solitary wand on a faded purple cushion in the window. The lacquer of the golden sign on the door has peeled off, and it reads, "Ollivander, a well-made wand since 382 BC. In Diagon Alley, Ollivander's wand shop is very easy to find. Besides, this is the only wand shop in Diagon Alley." When Ray arrived here, there happened to be a little girl who came out of the store happily under the guidance of an adult. She must have got the wand she liked. With excitement, Ray walked into the store. The vague impression in his mind overlapped with reality, Ollivander's messy silver hair, no beard, and wrinkles on his face. He was an elderly man, but his face was very bright. Speaking from the bottom of my heart, when I saw Ollivander's first impression, Ray felt that he was very much like a giant in the scientific world, Einstein. "Hi, kid, do you want to buy a wand too?" Without waiting for Ray to speak, the enthusiastic Ollivander asked spontaneously. "Yes, sir." Ray was a little restrained. This old man who looked like Einstein always made him feel a little crazy. Don't be nervous, kid. Come to me and you will choose your favorite wand. Of course, in this process, the wand actually chooses you. Ollivander was very talkative, as if he was using words to make Ray relax, and at the same time held a tape measure in his hand to measure Ray, so that he could find out the wand that chose Ray more quickly. Sir, can I ask a question? Ray asked when Ollivander was measuring. Of course, I'm honored to answer your question, child. Ollivander replied kindly, without stopping. Excuse me, why do you choose a wand and you need to measure every part of your body? Ray was very curious when he watched a movie in his previous life, and now he finally asked it out of curiosity. For this question, Ollivander was stunned for a moment, then smiled. You are still the first child to ask me this question. Ray didn't answer, he waited for Ollivander's explanation. Well, how can I put it? The wands in the store are made by me and my ancestors. They are like children of my family and have some subtle connection with me. As for measuring the cost of each wand purchased, man, that is to convey this data through me, clearly to each wand, so that they have a general understanding of you first. So, the finer the measurement, the better. Arm length, forearm length, height, head circumference, etc. Ollivander measured it very carefully, and then chatteringly, he started walking into the depths of the 2 rows of shelves. After fumbling for a while, he pulled out a box, took out the wand inside, and walked to Ray. Hawthorn wood, 11 inches long, unicorn tail hair, a very special wand, I think it should suit you very well. As Ollivander explained, he handed the wand in his hand to Ray, urging him to wave the wand in his hand to try. Holding the wand in his hand, he felt a little cold. Looking at Ollivander who was encouraging him in front of him, Ray waved the wand in his hand. Waving the wand in his hand, Ray didn't feel the flow of any magic power. Even the things in the store didn't make any noise. Nothing happened in the store. Ollivander pondered for a while, then walked to the shelf and took out another wand. Hawthorn wands can be mischievous sometimes, and it's okay to not move. Try this one, holly, 12 inches long, with thestrals, it's good at defense. Putting the hawthorn wand in his hand on the table, Ray took the holly wand in Ollivander's hand. When holding wands of different materials, in addition to the different weights, there is also the degree of coldness. This one seems to be cooler than the one just now. With Ollivander's encouragement again, Ray waved his wand in his right hand again. However, nothing happened either. The first time Harry Potter waved his wand, the drawer flew out, the second time he directly burst a vase. Ray doesn't know what will happen when other people choose wands, but no matter what, it won't be like he is now, there is no movement. It felt like I was a squib. So awkward. Ollivander's old face was a little bit unbearable, and the wand he chose twice did not move in the hands of the little wizard. This is really unreasonable. Son, what's your name? Ollivander wanted to know more about the child in front of him and provide him with more basis for choosing a wand. Ray, my name is Ray Fasty, sir. Oh, Mr. Fasty, your surname reminds me of an ancient wizarding family, the McFasty. McFasty. Yes, it is said that this family lives in the Hexidia Islands, and this family is subordinate to the Hexidia Black Dragon. A family belongs to the dragon. Ray was a little puzzled. After all, in the world of Harry Potter, dragons are not very high. For example, in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the fire dragon was used as a level. There was also the little dragon that breathed fire and baked beans in the vending machine of the Ministry of Magic, an iron-bellied dragon that is tied by an iron chain and used to guard the gate. Dragon meat can be eaten, and dragon skin can be made into gloves. It can be said that in the world of Harry Potter, dragons are the most miserable creatures. So, Ray was a little surprised when he heard here that a long-established wizarding family was actually subordinate to the dragon. Ollivander didn't bother with this question. He went back deep into the room and waited for a long time before taking out a box. I think it should be it. 11 inches, holly, phoenix feather. This wand is a twin, and the other is owned by a wizard who has done great things. We call him Mysterio. Ollivander said a lot, but no matter how much he said, Ray finally understood the origin of this wand, Harry Potter's wand. Try it, and see if the waiting fate will change. Ovalid delivered the wand to Ray's hand. He said that because this wand was destined to be used by Harry Potter. Now, he somehow felt that the child in front of him should also be very suitable for this wand. Taking the wand, Ray felt the temperature from the wand in his hand. It wasn't even cold, and when I touched its skin, I felt a touch of warmth. After taking a deep breath, Ray calmed down and finally waved the wand in his hand again. Qiu Feng is working hard to code words. Although there are only a few chapters in the current manuscript, he also has the cheek to ask the officials for some collection and recommendation tickets. Recommend votes are very important for potential value. I hope all the readers who think this article is okay can cast your precious vote. Qiu Feng, thank you for your support. Thanks. Holding the wand that belonged to Harry in his hand, Ray could actually feel the temperature of the wand coming from the palm of his hand. At this moment, he had a feeling that he was going to replace Harry and become the protagonist of the wizarding world. In Ollivander's expectant eyes, Ray waved his wand vigorously. Once, twice, 3 times. After 3 strokes, Ray stopped waving, and put his wand on the table in embarrassment. When I waved it for the first time, nothing happened in the store. Ray understood that the wand still belonged to Harry Potter, not to himself. The reason why he waved 3 times in a row was because he was worried about one thing. This is already the 3rd wand I have tried. Every wand that I swing, whether it fits or not, should respond. Since he waved 3 wands without any movement, then there is only one possibility: he is a muggle and does not have the qualifications to become a wizard. Ollivander seemed to be very confident in Ray. He thought that the reason why the wand did not respond should be that the fit between Ray and the wand was very high, so he continued to find a new wand for Ray and let Ray try waving them one by one. However, Ollivander, who was so sure, after Ray tried 50 wands, he couldn't hold back any longer, and he snorted softly, "It's impossible. Every little wizard can wave a wand, it's impossible not to move at all. Are you going to study at Hogwarts?" Ollivander finally asked this sentence. This sentence is very rude to a little wizard. But Ray wasn't angry at all, because even he was beginning to doubt himself. "This is an acceptance letter from Hogwarts, sir." Ray was a little nervous. As soon as Ollivander asked this question, he thought of that possibility. So he took out the admission letter to Ollivander, hoping to get the fact that he could indeed attend Hogwarts from him. With Ray's eager anticipation, Ollivander read the admission letter seriously, and finally nodded. It was only at this point that Ray's dangling heart was let go. "Don't worry, kid, I still have a lot of wands in my store. We can try them out slowly, and we will definitely find a wand that suits you." After confirming Ray's admission letter, Ollivander no longer doubts, and there is only one result. The little boy in front of him fits the requirements of the wand to an unbelievable level. Ollivander has been making fine wands since 382 BC. It was his golden sign, but as Ray tried more and more wands, Ollivander became more and more worried that the golden sign would fall into his hands today. Aesop's wand, whether it is a long history or a recent one. No matter how the boy in front of him waved, there was no movement at all. If it wasn't for the firm belief that the Hogwarts admissions letter would not go wrong, Ollivander would have thought that the boy in front of him was not a muggle, but definitely a squib in a new sense. Within an hour, Ray had forgotten how many wands he had tried, and Ollivander often pondered, thinking about how to help Ray choose a wand. In the process, 2 or 3 little wizards have successfully found their wands under Ollivander's recommendation. Ray was helpless, because another hour had passed. "Mr. Ollivander, otherwise, I'll try elsewhere. He didn't dare to try again, because even Ray himself was suspicious of whether he had magic power. Perhaps the ability to absorb objects from the air and make the glass disappear is not magic at all, but other types of superpowers. No, it shouldn't be like this. Ollivander ignored Ray's request, clenched his right hand into a fist, and tapped his forehead, as if he was also in distress. Wait, maybe it's it. Well, it must be it. Ollivander muttered to the window and took the solitary wand inside the glass window. Get up and walk in front of Ray. Acacia wood, 12 inches, the tendons and nerves of the black dragon, the first wand of the Ollivander family. Garrick Ollivander said it very formally, this wand that has been displayed in the window is the first Ollivander made. When he picked it up, he seemed to be still remembering the story of the wand. Acacia is a distinctive wand wood that generally refuses to use it for magic to anyone but its owner. But on the other hand, it only shows its strength to the most talented people, so the owner of the acacia wood wand is usually a careful wizard, at least in the use of magic power. The operation is very delicate, and the spiritual power is very powerful. Ollivander delivered the wand in front of Ray with both hands, and a confident smile appeared on his face again. He believed that this wand would definitely fit with Ray, and he would definitely choose Ray as its owner. The wand was 12 inches long, black and violet, and there was a faint floating pattern of flying dragons leaping above it. Ray took the wand and just took it in his hand, when he was suddenly relieved, feeling like a fish in water, a dragon returning to the sea. Moreover, the black dragon on the wand suddenly revolved around the shaft of the wand, and finally reached the tip of the wand, and then disappeared into mist. It felt like unlocking a lock that enabled the use of this wand. Unbelievable! Ollivander was involuntarily surprised. The scene in front of him did not require any wave from Ray. He could be sure that the first wand born in the Ollivander family had already chosen the child in front of him. Sir, this. Ray didn't dare to wave it again. He wasn't completely sure that the wand in his hand had chosen him. He was afraid that if he waved it again, there would still be no movement. My child, the wand has already chosen you, so you don't need to worry anymore. Of course Ollivander knew what Ray was thinking, and he finally found the right wand, which also made Ollivander relieved. Then, Mr. Ollivander, will I only be able to use magic in the future? Ray was still a little worried that in the future, he could only use this wand. Ollivander smiled and comforted, of course not, the wand in your hand, the heart of the wand is the tendon and nerve of the black dragon. You have already obtained its preferred recognition, which is equivalent to opening a magic shackle. As for the other wands, you can of course use them. While comforting, Ollivander handed Ray another ordinary wand. Picking up an ordinary wand, Ray waved his right hand, and an explosion sounded immediately where the wand was pointing. Hearing this muffled explosion, Ray finally confirmed that he was not a squib. This is a happy thing, and Ollivander is the same. UU reading www.uuganshu.com 7 gold galleons, child. You are so special, I believe that your achievements in the future are limitless. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Overd. Ray thanked him sincerely, and then happily paid 7 galleons. A magic wand is undoubtedly the most expensive thing in school. The rough choice was finally made. As for the rest of the must-haves, Ray has enough money. What's more, when I go to Hogwarts College to take classes, I have never heard of paying tuition fees. If you really have to pay tuition, the chances of Tom Riddle becoming Voldemort at the beginning may be very small. Since Voldemort, an orphan, can go to school, so can Ray. After buying all the necessities, when Ray was about to return to the Broken Axe Bar, it was already dark. There were very few pedestrians on the street. Pushing the trolley, Ray came to the closed entrance, took out his wand, and prepared to open the door with the method Tom taught him. However, just when Ray took out his wand, a sloppy, long-haired homeless man suddenly appeared behind him, covering his mouth with one hand and hugging him with the other, and ran towards Nocturne Alley on the left. It was so sudden that Ray didn't react at all. His mouth was covered by the other's hand, and the shouting could only turn into a hum. The cart followed, and was pushed to the entrance of Nocturne Alley by an old man with a pale face and black lips. The entrance goes downhill from high to low. In a panic, Ray bit hard, and then heard a scream of pain. At the same time, his legs kicked with all their might on the narrow entrance wall. With a bang, Ray's resistance was fierce, which was unexpected, and the three in the cart suddenly fell into a ball. Tom reminded Ray not to come back too late. However, for a person who is accustomed to living a peaceful life in the 21st century, the sudden change in the environment does not raise the awareness of security so quickly. Unprepared to be attacked, the three of them fell to the ground one after another under Ray's struggle. After getting rid of the opponent's control, Ray quickly got up without caring about the pain. He is a child, facing two adults. No matter what, physically, he has no chance of winning. Unless Ray can get rid of one quickly, there may be a chance to escape. At the entrance of Nocturne Alley, there are not only the two robbers, but several others standing in the depths. They are like drug addicts, hoping that people who pass by can give something to them. At this time, the things on the cart were scattered all over the ground, and these people naturally wanted to share a piece of the pie. What's more, in the depths of Nocturne Alley, there are also people who are interested in little wizards. Nocturne Alley is a black market for black magic items. Who knows if someone will use the little wizard to do black magic research or something. Back then, Harry Potter used Flow powder to drive and stumbled into Nocturne Alley. If he hadn't met Hagrid passing by in time, he might have been in danger. In a previous life, the 11-year-old Ray was only at the mercy of others. But now it's different. Ray has magic powers and has a wand in his hand, which means he has a ready-made gun in his hand. Avada Kedavra. Ray, who had just stood up, cast a deadly spell on the homeless man who was rushing towards him in front of him. Now is not the time to be soft-hearted, and looking at the other party's plans, it's obviously not as simple as just robbing something. If Ray doesn't kill him, it will definitely be him. What's more, the Harry Potter movies have been watched for so many years. The most impressive spell to say is this one, Avada Suoming. I believe that more than 80% of people who have seen Harry Potter know this spell. As for the other attack spells, Ray really couldn't remember them in a hurry. A word of Avada's life directly scared the souls of the people in front of him. As for Ray's back, deep in the alley, those who came to things just raised their footsteps, and immediately stopped. Avada Suomen is one of the 3 unforgivable curses. A little wizard who seemed to have just turned 11 years old, who knew that he was a ruthless character, just got up and threw the most ruthless of the 3 unforgivable curses out. Avada is killed, the one who hits will die, and he will not give him a chance. At this time, the 2 homeless people in front of Ray had their intestines darkened. With 2 plops, one thought he was hit, and reflexively sat on the ground. As for the one behind the cart, he knelt directly to the ground because he was going to beg for mercy. However, they found out after everyone paused for a second. The spell of Avada Suomen did not achieve its function, and there was no movement in the air. Ha ha! The hideous laughter sounded, and the vagabond who had a pale face just now, who thought he was recruited, suddenly laughed again. Not only was he laughing, but the sick addicts behind Ray were laughing too. Passed out. Avada Kedavra. Ray cast the spell 2 more times, and the results were obvious. Even Voldemort couldn't cast the 3 unforgivable curses as soon as he got his wand. Things were a bit taken for granted, but the anxious Ray did not give up. Amid the jeers of these robbers, the wand in his hand pointed to another stone on the ground. The 3 unforgivable spells cannot be cast, but the magic power is real. When he didn't have a wand, Ray could take things from the air. Now that he has a wand, it should be no problem to command a small rock to smash people. As expected, the stone on the ground quickly floated up in Ray's eyes, and he waved his wand in his right hand. The robber, who was frightened by Avadasuo's life just now, was hit by a flying stone while laughing. Boom! There was a sound of flesh and blood spattered. It was followed by a scream like a pig, "Ah! My eyes!" The stone was bigger than a fist, and it smashed quickly, hitting the door. The smashing of the door made the homeless man in front of him lose his fighting power immediately. However, the stone fell to the ground as soon as it was hit, because the current ray did not have the ability to control continuously. He can only prepare to let the stone fly again and use him to smash the people rushing behind him. However, things can't always go so smoothly, and it still takes a little time for the stone to fly. The person who rushed behind him naturally refused to give him any chance. Just when he controlled the stone to hit the first person, the person behind him had already rushed up, knocked off the wand in his hand with one hand, grabbed his shoulder, and then yanked it. Although the men standing on the street in Nocturne Alley are all sick, they don't seem to live long, but they are always adults, and their strength is naturally not small. Ray's weight was thrown deeper into Nocturne Alley. The person was thrown against the wall, and then fell to the ground. The stimulation of pain and the impact made Ray's head go dizzy, and his eyes were staring straight into the stars. Even so, Ray still wanted to get up regardless. However, there are a total of 5 people here, how can he give this child the slightest chance? Before he could get up completely, he was stomped heavily on his back. Ah! With a loud roar, Ray struggled desperately. He didn't want to die here, he still had a lot of magic to learn. His life has just begun. However, with a snap, Ray just raised his head and was smashed to the ground by someone's hand. Opening his roaring mouth, he was not only hit with blood, but also knocked out several teeth. What's more important is that this time, it was very shaking, and the pain made him unable to struggle. This kid has good magic power, he should be able to sell some money. However, there is only one person who comes to buy school supplies. 80% of them are orphans, so there is nothing to worry about. Ray's eyes were slack and powerless, waiting for his fate. You can imagine what happened next. However, just when these people were harvesting the spoils, a long whispered voice suddenly sounded in this alley. Actinogram Crone. The voice that appeared, the tone was obscure, not like a spell, but it was definitely not a human language. The happy homeless people suddenly shuddered. Because this dangerous whisper seemed to ring in their ears. That dangerous feeling is like the sound of a curse. The sense of danger of death quickly filled the body, and even the temperature in the air seemed to drop rapidly. Everyone looked around suspiciously, wondering where the terrifying whisper came from. Looking around, everyone looked at Ray, who was being controlled. However, Ray didn't speak, at least no one saw Ray make the tone, not even the man who controlled him. I don't know when, a thin layer of black mist seeped out from the dark Nocturne Alley floor. The black mist was like ink, quickly wrapping around everyone's feet. Ah, ah! A terrified scream suddenly sounded. The feet of the homeless people in the black fog were caught by something, and no matter how they struggled, they couldn't move. This kind of thing happened very suddenly. During the struggle, some people fell to the ground because their center of gravity was unstable. For the people who sat down, the black mist immediately turned into a black hand, quickly winding up and pulling these struggling people down. Beneath this black fog seemed to be an endless swamp, and the people who were entangled soon only had their hands stretched out into the air as much as possible. The screams kept ringing in this alley. No matter who, after hearing this horrific scream, they have no intention of coming to check. Because this is Nocturne Alley, not Diagon Alley. In Nocturne Alley, screaming happens from time to time, especially in the dark night. Ray hadn't fainted completely, and he also heard an obscure low and long tone. But when he reacted, everyone was lying on the aisle that was not wide enough to turn over to the alley. They were like drowning people, with their eyes wide open and their hands reaching as far as they could to the sky. Ray was naturally afraid of the long tone just now. After he got up, he first retrieved his wand, then picked up the scattered things on the ground as soon as possible, pulled up the cart, and rushed out of Nocturne Alley. The brick wall at the entrance to Diagon Alley was being removed, and Tom was standing in the doorway when Ray rushed out of Nocturne Alley. "Oh, Merlin's beard, what's wrong with you?" An orphan, with no acquaintance, Tom naturally wouldn't think he had other places to go. It was getting late, so he went to Diagon Alley to find Ray, who had not returned, only to see him with blood all over his mouth. This scene doesn't have to think about what's going on, so Tom looks to Nocturne Alley on the right. However, what he did not expect at all was that there were actually several people in Nocturne Alley, lying on the ground silently. And look at how they look. These garbage. This is black magic. Tom's swearing turned into panic halfway through, because he also saw the deaths of those people. "Son, how did you escape?" Ray shook his head, not knowing what happened. He didn't see the thick black mist, only heard the long and incomprehensible sound. This made Tom think that maybe someone secretly helped Ray, but that person used black magic. On the surface, Tom didn't worry too much about this issue, and then took Ray back to the leaky cauldron. As for the matter of black magic, he did not mention it again. Maybe he had already made up his mind, and he would tell Dumbledore at Hogwarts. Back at the bar, Tom used magic to repair Ray's lost tooth. The hunchbacked waiter in a black robe quickly helped Ray to bring the things to the room on the second floor. The hunchbacked waiter had pointed ears and a warm smile on his face. Ray seriously doubted whether he had goblin blood. Under his attentive reception, Ray finally moved into a room with a window on the second floor. With a long bang, a train galloped past the tracks. The height of this house is exactly the height of the rail bridge. Ray looked at the environment of the room. Although it was old and noisy, it was absolutely very clean. The messy scene of the leaky cauldron is just an appearance, except that it is a bit louder. It is indeed a good place to stay. At this time, Ray was very fortunate that he was able to come back alive. Thinking back on the obscure whisper in my mind, I felt a little incredible, as if I had heard this whisper somewhere. Early in the morning, on the second floor of the Leaky Cauldron bar, a pale-colored owl threw today's daily newspaper into the window of a guest room. This room was exactly the room that Ray had ordered. He's up early, and he's rarely been out of the Leaky Cauldron lately to avoid Ryan Evers. Therefore, the Daily Prophet, which is updated every day, has become an important source of his information. Just a few days ago, he saw a piece of news. An Auror named Carbodoric, and his partner, were besieged by 10 vampires on the east coast of England. The Auror's partner died in battle, and Carbodoric killed 7 vampires under desperate resistance before breaking out of the siege. Why did the vampires, who never clashed directly with wizards, suddenly besiege the Aurors? If you want to know the specific reasons, please continue to pay attention to the Daily Prophet. After a detailed report, the news ended, leaving a suspense. Vampires are dark creatures known for their speed. Although they are afraid of sunlight and garlic, once the number of people is dominant, the wizard is quite dangerous. After all, vampires are stronger than wizards in terms of physical strength. Ray is very sensitive to news about vampires. After all, the Ryan Evos he is facing is a high-level vampire. The Auror named Carbodoric was able to kill 7 in the face of the siege of 10 vampires, and his strength was really impressive. Ray not only fantasized in his heart, it would be great if he could learn how to deal with vampires from him. Cleaning. Just as Ray was searching for news about vampires, a female voice came from outside the door. In the narrow corridor on the second floor of the Leaky Cauldron, a young witch in a tattered shirt and disheveled hair knocked on Ray's door. There was a broom that seemed to be alive behind her. "Sister Julian, I want to trouble you again." Ray opened the door and let Julian, who was cleaning, come in. He has lived here for more than half a month, so he quickly became friends with her. Oh, Ray, today's house is messy enough, and it's really good. Cleaning is my job. If the room is so tidy every day, and Tom in the Mediterranean finds out, I will be deducted from my wages again. The witch named Julian was very dissatisfied with Ray's hygienic habit, but the words she said to the boss Tom later were whispered to Ray. Mr. Tom shouldn't be that kind of person, right? Ray shrugged as Julian, who was cleaning, exaggerated. Oh, is that right? Then when you first went to the bar, why did he charge you the juice he offered to pour you? Julian blinked, and what he said left Ray speechless. The key is that the nickname of the Mediterranean was given to Tom by Ray, and the money that Tom charged for Ray's glass of juice was also said by Ray after mixing with Julian. Oh, Sister Julian, you said you wanted to teach me a few simple magics, and let me tell the bad side of Mr. Tom. I was still a child, what I said, I can choose to forget. As for the shirk of responsibility, Ray is not ambiguous at all, after all, his soul is not only 11 years old. Come on, ghost. Sometimes I really want to unplug your head and see how your soul is formed. Julian helped Ray change the sheets, and the broom and rag took the initiative to wipe and sweep the only dust in the house into the garbage bag. Ray consulted Julian about this lifelike broom and rag. Magic items like this, bought from magic shops, are like household cleaning robots in modern society, only much smarter by comparison. Little devil, have you learned the basic magic you taught you? Julian quickly changed the quilt, then turned to ask about Ray's studies. Fluorescent flickering and levitating spells are fine, but cleaning them up always makes a mess in the room. As for magic, Ray couldn't wait. Last time in Nocturne Alley, he was passive because he didn't know any magic. So, after settling down, Ray wanted to get in touch with magic no matter what, and Julian, who was cleaning, naturally became his first teacher. Julian is an employee in the Leaky Cauldron, in charge of the cleaning of the residents. These simple little magics, Ray wants to learn, naturally, there is no problem. In the past 10 days, Ray has practiced the fluorescent flickering and levitation spells. As for cleaning up, there are always problems. Whenever this magic is used, the room will be very messy. You want to use the clean-up magic to tidy up everything in the room. Julian looked at Ray like a monster, his face full of incredulity. Difficult, is there a problem? Sister Julian. Ray was panicked by the stare in her eyes, and asked nervously. Of course not, kid. The clean-up magic can remove the loot from the clothes and the residue in the cauldron. However, you want to use this magic to tidy up the items in the room. I have to say that your idea is very bold. Julian is an enthusiastic person, and she can be said to be an authority on the magic of clean-up. It was absolutely impossible for Ray to ask her for advice. Kid, clean-up is a magic that you want to use to get the whole house back in place and keep things tidy. It would be weird if you could do that. The magic that can tidy up an entire room is called restoration. Of course, the premise is that the room is clean and tidy for a certain period of time. And to restore the whole room, no matter the size and control of the magic, the requirements are very high. Pulling on Ray's cute face, Julian looked at the distressed Ray with relief, and continued with a smile, if you extend the magic of clean-up, it might be able to expel living creatures. Julian is always curious about Ray's thinking, so she often tells Ray that magic can be used this way or that. Letting Ray hit the wall was her new joy. Can magic be used like this? For his blushing face, Ray forgot the pain, and a surprised expression hung on his face. For Julian's deliberate exaggeration, Ray felt that there was some truth. Because of magic, in the eyes of an outsider like him. Sometimes, the boundaries of two similar magics are blurred, and if you extend them, many logically feasible functions can indeed appear. Julian was very satisfied with this expression, nodded and continued, of course, a lot of magic is actually an extension of the use of magic, and they all have similar things in common. Magic is single, but people's minds are not single. Sister, can you use the clean-up spell to expel living creatures? Ray asked excitedly after being surprised. Such a pretentious expression completely satisfied the vanity of Julian, the great wizard. Besides, Ray herself wanted to hear what Julian, a witch, had to say about magic, and sometimes she spoke righteously. Not only did Ray have some doubts in his heart, but the Julian witch who was cleaning the house in front of her was the sweeper of the magical world. This. It's my sister's experience in cleaning for many years. As for the practical stage, it is under development. As for you, let's start by cleaning up the swag on your clothes. Julian laughed embarrassingly, then ripped Ray's hair violently with his dusty hands, and exited the room. Ray was teased like this and didn't care at all, instead he thought it was very cordial. Julian is an ordinary witch. Ray also asked her about dealing with vampires, but she replied very seriously, if you encounter a vampire now, don't try to deal with him, just run away. For this, Ray could only smile awkwardly. The point is not that he wants to deal with vampires, but that vampires want to find him. Clean up. After Julian tidied up Ray's room, she went to the adjacent room to continue her sweeping business. Ray closed the door and continued to practice his magic. Clean up. This time, the magic was performed very smoothly. The tea stains on the clothes he was referring to disappeared quickly while the wand was shaking. The magic of cleaning up a new one has been practiced for so many days, and the reason for the problem is that it was used in the wrong direction. In a previous life, when watching the Harry Potter series of movies, Ray vaguely remembered that Dumbledore used a magic to restore the house that had been damaged beyond recognition. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. I thought it might be the magic of cleaning up a new one, but who knows, from the surprised expression on Julian's face, the magic is not so simple. Restoring as before, the key to this magic is at which stage the first character is. Small items may be okay, but the whole room is just. If Dumbledore really used this simple magic, how amazing was his magic control? Magic is a profound subject. It is not easy to become a wizard like Dumbledore who can fight against Voldemort. Everything has to be done step by step. Some things cannot be rushed. Putting on the clothes cleaned with magic, Ray packed all his belongings again. Today is September 1st, the day Hogwarts begins, and he has to go to King's Cross to take the only steam train. Wingardim Leviosa. He waved the black wand with purple in his hand, and the luggage trolley floated with the guide of the wand. The levitation spell is one of the most convenient spells in life. After Ray learns it, these luggages don't need anyone's help to move them downstairs. Magic changes lives. Magic, of course, also changed the world. Ray, today is the school day, study hard, this is your school gift. Tom with the Mediterranean hairstyle smiled and walked up to Ray who had just come downstairs, and packed a small package into Ray's luggage, not giving Ray any chance to refuse at all. Thank you, Uncle Tom. I will definitely study hard. After thanking him, Ray dragged his suitcase out of the broken axe bar. Get a taxi to King's Cross with the help of Gatling the Hunchback. King's Cross, platform 9 3/4, driving time at 11 o'clock. Based on previous experience with trains, Ray arrived at King's Cross an hour early. The station is really big, and there is a sense of history everywhere. The station has a high and large dome-shaped skylight, which makes the station very bright. Walking across the overpass above the railway track, Ray pushed the cart to the destination of the trip, the curved column between platforms 9 and 10. The number 9 hangs on the left and 10 on the right. It should be right here. The station is full of pedestrians in a hurry, and this is the entrance to the 9 3/4 station, ready to go to Hogwarts College, but Ray didn't see a single one. There should be a lot of people entering this site. Ray stood here and looked left and right, but he didn't see a child of the same grade. To be honest, in Ray's heart, facing a wall, he rushed forward with all his strength. This feels like a violation of common sense judgment for many years, and the body will naturally resist a little. Because in the normal world, this is a very stupid thing. Of course, for him with a mature soul, suppressing and resisting is simply a piece of cake. However, for safety's sake, he pushed the car in front of the wall and deliberately touched it with his hands. The touch is very real, and the hand can fully feel the roughness from the bricks. Can this be worn? After touching the wall, Ray expressed serious doubts about whether he could pass through the wall from here. Magic things are often unreasonable. So no matter how much you doubt, sometimes you can only suppress your own instincts and rise to the challenge. Ray took a deep breath, pushed the cart back a distance, and then charged towards the wall. Then, in Ray's firm belief that he would pass through the wall, he pushed the cart and finally slammed into the wall. With a loud bang, not only the cart and the luggage on it were turned over, but also Ray himself. The trolley hit the wall and stopped abruptly, which made his small body fly up, overturned the trolley, wiped the wall and smashed to the ground. At the critical moment, the elbow covered his head, otherwise it was not the elbow but his forehead that was injured and bleeding now. Depend on. Ray waited for a while before getting up, looking at the place where the elbow was broken and bleeding, and shouted a word of venting from the previous life. "Child, are you all right?" A fat conductor in overalls was attracted by the sound of the crash, and looked at Ray who had just climbed up from the ground in surprise. "Sir, I'm fine. It's just that I just can't control my stroller." Ray made a familiar excuse to cover it up, or what? He told the other party that he was going to pass through the wall, but he slammed into the wall foolishly. "Where is your station? Do you need me to help you carry your luggage?" The fat conductor looked at the embarrassed Ray. Out of good intentions, he wanted to help this child who couldn't even control the stroller. "Well, thank you, sir. I think the ground slipped just now, that's why. I think I can do it, sir." Rejecting the kindness of the conductor, Ray started to pack up the luggage that fell to the ground. "Okay, boy. If you need any help, you can always find someone in the same uniform as me." The conductor looked again and again at Ray, who kept saying that he was fine, and left here with doubts. He didn't see anyone here just now, and heard the sound of hitting the wall. After he walked over, he saw Ray who had just stood up in the corner. There was a burning pain in Ray's right elbow, as if to remind him all the time that he was foolish enough to hit the wall by himself just now. After packing his luggage, Ray gave a helpless smile. The site should be right here, but why did he hit the wall instead of going through it? Could it be that this place, like Harry Potter, was casted by Dobby? You are a freshman, who will make things difficult for you. In other words, do you have the qualifications to be embarrassed? Shaking his head violently, Ray shook off the thought just now and returned to the topic. As long as you analyze it a little, you can clearly know that the foolish self is definitely in the wrong place. There is not much time left. If Ray wants to get to Hogwarts, if he misses such a train, he will have to wait until this time next year. However, just when he was a little anxious to find the platform, he unexpectedly heard a nice voice. "Mom, why is he so stupid to hit the wall?" A pair of well-dressed and meticulously dressed mother and daughter appeared opposite the column. The girl asked the middle-aged woman standing next to her in a suspicious tone. She is young, about the same age as Ray. She should also be a freshman at Hogwarts. Because she has a beautiful owl on her cart. She is very beautiful, with prominent brow bones, deep eye sockets, and thick and long eyelashes above her smart eyes. The tall nose bridge makes her facial features appear three-dimensional. She has a narrow face, a full forehead and a tight chin. Her lip shape is clear, the lip peaks are distinct, and the corners of her mouth rise slightly. Such a beautiful little girl now looks at Ray, who has just packed her luggage, with a look of disgust. Obviously, the scene of Ray hitting the wall just now completely fell into her eyes. "Agnes, the people who hit the wall are usually Muggle-born wizards, because they are going to Hogwarts for the first time. The middle-aged woman glanced at Ray with disgust, and then said to her daughter. A Muggle-born wizard, Ray didn't have to think about who he was talking about. The pretty girl smiled at Ray, but with a proud look. The mother and daughter walked to the other side of the column that Ray hit. The little girl looked down at Ray and said, "Hey, little fool! Look carefully, this is the correct entrance." As soon as the words fell, the little girl with blonde hair pushed the cart and crashed into the column beside Ray. The little girl disappeared and entered the column. And her mother has also left. I rely on it. Ray reluctantly made another foul language. It turned out that he had already found the right place, but the entry point was separated by a wall, on the other side of the column. The collision just now was really a waste. He is also stupid enough to be called a fool by an 11-year-old girl, and he really deserves it. Ray can tell you what it's like to walk through a wall, it doesn't feel anything at all. Restraining the fear of being bumped into, and then with a flash of darkness, Ray arrived at platform 9 3/4 of the way to Hogwarts. There are parents seeing off here everywhere, it's really lively. The steaming train honked its whistle. The well-meaning conductor uses a levitation charm to load Ray's luggage onto the train. Walking in this retro carriage, Ray has a very travel feeling. Very relaxed and comfortable, the only fly in the ointment is that almost all the carriages are full of students. Ah, I'm really sorry. I'll find another location immediately. In front of Ray, the sliding door on the right suddenly opened. A little boy stood outside the sliding door in a panic, and hurriedly bowed inside to apologize. Then he closed the door respectfully and left. What's going on? Ray walked here curiously and looked into the cubicle. A cubicle can seat 4 people, but apparently only one is seated here. A girl with long blonde hair, looking down at a book. No matter what the reason, a fool would not sit in such an empty cubicle. Pulling open the sliding door, Ray entered the compartment. Well, I'm sorry. Can I sit here? Ray said something politely, but before the little girl agreed, he started stuffing his luggage under the seat. After all, no one would be so polite to catch a train in a previous life, not to mention that this compartment was not reserved by a little girl. Do I agree to you sitting here? The girl was a little dissatisfied, but her voice was very nice. Oh, sorry. There really isn't any space elsewhere, thank you. After packing his luggage, Ray stood up and said apologetically. However, when he faced the girl, there was still some surprise on his face. Because this girl was the one who called herself a little fool while watching her jokes outside the station. Hello, my name is Ray Fasty, it's an honor to sit with you. The standard posture, the standard tone, and the smiling Ray suddenly changed, showing an impeccable noble etiquette in front of this little girl. Ray recalled the scene outside the station just now, the girl in front of her was definitely born from a pure-blooded family full of superiority. Maybe, this small cubicle was packaged by someone else. In order to make himself a comfortable position, Ray had to change his temperament and instantly become a standard aristocratic gentleman. Regarding this noble etiquette, have you watched too few movies in your previous life? I have never eaten pork, and I have seen pigs run. Ray got serious, still no worse than those pure-blooded wizard families. A girl from a big family will naturally respond to such textbook-like etiquette. My name is Agnes Greengrass. Ray's temperament changed too fast, which made Agnes unable to rub his hands. What's more, Ray believed that the other party was going to Slytherin, so when he said that he was an orphan, he also expressed that he also yearned for Slytherin. Slytherin students are elegant and dignified, all of which reflect the noble demeanor. Words of praise, coupled with Ray's impeccable aristocratic demeanor, convinced Agnes that Ray's parents were definitely pure-blooded wizards. Because other than the pure-blooded noble wizard family, it is impossible to raise a child with aristocratic demeanor like Ray. Ray is very talkative, with the least mature soul, he is very talkative in front of an 11-year-old girl. Agnes also yearned for Slytherin, and the girl in front of her was another child who was misled by the family's pure blood theory. The pretty little loli was full of disgust for muggles, and Ray sighed regretfully, the little guy's mind seems to be crooked. Ray, you also want to enter Slytherin, right? Agnes asked seriously, staring at Ray's eyes. Slytherin is an academy for the outstanding children of nobles. If I can enter Slytherin, it will be my honor. Ray's answer was impeccable. He didn't say that he was pure blood, it was just what little loli thought. He didn't say that he wanted to enter Slytherin just now, which is what Agnes thought. He didn't mean to deceive the little girl in front of him. But in his heart there is a sense of guilt for being a strange uncle. It seems that the current self is a strange uncle who tricks the little loli to see the goldfish. Moreover, this little loli was completely unaware that she had been deceived. Interesting topic, she has forgotten to drive away the strange Uncle Ray. In the sound of steam whistles, the red-skinned and black-headed train took the Hogwarts students through the meadows, forests, lakes, and finally reached the terminal after dark, Hogsmeade Village. Ray maintained a noble demeanor at all times along the way. However, pretending to be a noble is also a really uncomfortable thing. Not only should you always pay attention to your words and deeds, but also try to figure out the thoughts of little Lolita at any time. It's not hard to guess what little Loli thinks, but it's never Ray's strength. Ray came from a technical background in his previous life, so he was not very good at trying to figure out what his boss was thinking. Sometimes, his boss had to figure out what Ray was thinking. It's okay to be a noble for a day, but Ray can't imagine it if he is a lifetime. In order to reduce his guilt for deceiving little Loli, Roy told Agnes the fairy tales of Andersen in his previous life, the Emperor's New Clothes, Snow White, Cinderella, and so on. Be it nobles or commoners. As long as they are children, these fairy tales are very attractive to them. Although the little Loli in front of her maintained a cold face, she pretended not to be interested. But listening to Ray talking about the wonderful things, the expression that wanted to know the following has seriously betrayed her mood at the moment. At the same time, Ray also expounded a lot of correct moral values and values in it, and he wanted to subtly correct the thoughts of the little Loli in front of him. She is only 11 years old, her mind has not yet been finalized, and there may be salvation. The speed of the train started to slow down, and it was getting dark. In 5 minutes, the train will arrive at Hogwarts. Please leave your luggage on the train and we will take you to school. The sound of the train announcement began to echo, and at the same time, the freshmen were asked to change into the robes they bought. Ray took out a robe and draped it over his body, while holding a tie in his hand. The tie in his hand made Ray worry. He had already opened the collar of his shirt and hung the tie around his neck, but he didn't know how to start. Nearly 30 years ago in my previous life, it seemed that I had never worn a tie. When Agnes looked over, Ray had to smile awkwardly. Agnes, who was at the height of Ray's ears, came over and took the initiative to take the tie around Ray's neck. It's hard to imagine that the indifferent little Loli would tie a tie for herself. The two stood so close, Ray could smell the faint scent of each other. Really, so beautiful. Ray exclaimed in his heart and said thank you. No thanks, we're not classmates from the same academy. Agnes' words made people feel that she was not only 11 years old in her heart. Moreover, she seems to have decided that Ray will be assigned to Slytherin. As a classmate, she will help Ray. The subconscious mind correction doesn't seem to work quickly. Judging from the current situation, correcting the mind seems to have failed. In fact, it really doesn't matter which academy Ray is assigned to. I came to Hogwarts to learn magic, no matter which house I could achieve. For him, who is already 30 years old, any academy can do it. However, Agnes in front of him was a little more sincere. It felt like it would be a deception to her if she wasn't sorted into Slytherin. The short time together on the train had convinced Ray that once Agnes thought he was lying to her, the consequences could be serious. If you can, choose Slytherin. Ray thought to himself. After all, Coaxing little lowly is not something you should do. Even if the little lowly took the initiative to think that this is a means of deception. Well, that. Agnes, it seems that I can't decide the matter of the school by myself. The Sorting Hat has the final say. Before walking out of the cubicle, Ray was the first to get a vaccination. Of course, it's acceptable to be assigned to that college. For example, I actually yearn for Ravenclaw. A sweet voice, a blink of an eye. The kind of happy smile that makes fun of someone's success makes this little lowly a little more playful and cute. Agnes' answer left Ray standing there for a while before he could react. The sudden transformation of Agnes was still quite shocking. Ray always felt that she should be a diehard Slytherin. When he returned to his senses, little lowly Agnes had already got off the train. Did you make a mistake? Ray was surprised and recalled the appearance of Agnes on the way. Ray felt that it was right for him to think too much. I thought to myself that Agnes longed for Slytherin, because she was a pure-blood wizard family, and with the scene at the station, Ray had a subjective judgment. However, now, other people's little lowly's thoughts are not biased at all, and her three views are also very positive. I believe that even if she doesn't have to pretend to be a noble, she will not necessarily object to sitting in this compartment. Everything, it seems that people are just making fun of themselves. However, she is only 11 years old. Ray, a 30-year-old adult with a soul, was actually teased by a little lowly who was only 11 years old. This, Ray seems to be very helpless. Alas, the magical world is really hard to understand. Ray walked off the train with a wry smile. This time, his judgment was completely wrong, and it was outrageously wrong. Of course, although such a mistake is a little embarrassing, Ray is also a little fortunate. Such a beautiful little girl should naturally not turn into a hater of Muggles and become a loyal supporter of pure-bloodism. First-year freshman, please come here. As soon as Ray got out of the car, he heard a deafening shout. Hagrid, the giant at Hogwarts, was holding a large hand lamp in his right hand and appeared in the crowd like a hill. God, he's so tall. His beard is so long, and he wants his waistline. Hagrid's huge body fully aroused the curiosity of the children. He was wearing a dirty overcoat, with a large beard mixed with shoulder-length hair. The face in the middle has a friendly smile, which can be seen clearly under the illumination of the big hand lamp. Are you all here? Are there any freshmen in the first year? If not, then please come with me. After a few shouts, Hagrid led the freshmen into the woods, and then continued down. This should be a boat ride to the Black Lake, and Ray followed the team, bustling along the way. The narrow path winds down, and it's not very easy to walk in the dark, but fortunately Hagrid doesn't walk fast, and the fumbling children can keep up. At the end of the road, after paralleling for a certain distance, and walking out of the forest, the vision suddenly opened up in front of you. At this time, they had gathered at the pier by the Black Lake. Oh oh! A burst of exclamations came from the mouths of the freshmen. The castle towering on the cliff of Black Lake in the distance is particularly spectacular in the dark. At this moment, even Ray couldn't help but admire a few words from the bottom of his heart. Everyone, pay attention, each boat can't have more than 4 people. Hagrid reminded the group of freshmen, and then he occupied a small boat by himself. Each boat was illuminated by hand lamps, which allowed Hagrid to observe the children on each boat. The boat started, without the swaying of the oars or the roaring sound of the motor, it just carried people and started to move forward quietly. Watching the castle on the cliff getting closer and closer, the boats finally entered the pier at the bottom of the cliff to the exclamations of the children. After all the freshmen disembarked, Hagrid led them through an upward tunnel, and then through a huge door to the gate of the castle hall. There are braziers lit everywhere in the castle, which makes people feel warm, and the cold outside disappears without a trace in an instant. Just as the freshmen climbed the stairs around the corner, they saw a Professor McGonagall in a dark green robe and a black wizard hat standing in front of the gate. Welcome to Hogwarts. Professor McGonagall is the deputy head of Hogwarts, a serious and fair person. She first explained the 4 houses of Hogwarts: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Slytherin, and Ravenclaw. Of course, she also explained the sorting ceremony to the freshmen after entering for a while. After the explanation was over, Professor McGonagall pushed open the door of the hall, and there was a buzzing discussion inside. The hall is really big, and there are hundreds of people sitting in it, but it doesn't feel crowded at all. Following Professor McGonagall's footsteps, Ray and other freshmen walked into the hall under the watchful eyes of the seniors. A very magical hall, just like the one in the movie. Above the head is a lit, suspended candle, and upwards is the sky that cannot be seen. Magic, really amazing. Ray sighed and followed everyone's footsteps to the steps in front of the sorting hat. After everyone was standing, the sorting hat on the stool began to sing. It should be singing, because its lyrics are so random, as if to sing whatever comes to mind. Sings the history of the academy and introduces its own function. This kind of song is not good, it can be said to be ugly. If Ray was not interested in the content of the lyrics, maybe he would not have the patience to listen to it. Of course, there is another reason. That is, a scene in the movie really appeared in front of him at this time. He really had a sense of superiority of a prophet, so no matter how ugly the song was, Ray would think it was the sound of heaven. After the sorting hat finished singing, there was thunderous applause in the hall, which greatly satisfied the sorting hat. Every year it sings its own new song and gets thunderous applause every year. After the applause stopped, Professor McGonagall picked up a parchment and walked to the sorting hat. Whoever name I call now will sit on the stool and listen to the sorting. Agnes Greenglass. Unexpectedly, the first person was Agnes, who played with Ray. Agnes made up her mind. She was not as calm as she seemed, after all, she was only an 11-year-old child. She walked up the stairs and came to the high stool. Professor McGonagall had already raised the sorting hat. After she sat down, the big sorting hat was put on her head. At this time, she saw Ray below. She stuck out her tongue and smiled playfully at Ray, which made Ray quite speechless. After a moment of hesitation, the sorting hat shouted, "Ravenclaw!" Agnes Greengrass, the little lowly that Ray thought was for Slytherin, was assigned to Ravenclaw by the sorting hat as she wished. On the right side, on the long table belonging to Ravenclaw, there was immediate applause and cheers. Such a beautiful girl is sure to be welcomed wherever she goes. Agnes showed a happy smile, trotted to the long table, and sat at the front of the line. The prefect at the long table immediately congratulated and welcomed the new Agnes. The second branch of Penelope Clearwater is another beautiful little lowly with brown hair. Ravenclaw. The sorting hat's hesitation was very short this time, and it made a decision soon after the girl who called Penelope Clearwater put on the hat. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. The 2 beautiful girls in a row were both Ravenclaws, which made the atmosphere of Ravenclaw Academy immediately hilarious. Cedric Diggory. A black-haired, handsome little boy walked up the steps and sat down on a 3-legged stool. The Harry Potter in Ray's past life memory has been blurred. The protagonist may be able to remember, like those supporting characters have long forgotten. So he did not expect at this time that this Cedric Diggory would be the one who will participate in the Triwizard Tournament with Harry Potter in the future. Hufflepuff. The sorting hat shouted and assigned him to Hufflepuff. The speed of the sorting hat is sometimes fast and sometimes slow. If it is a full Slytherin, the sorting hat can be judged instantly before it is worn on the head. Because of Slytherin's unique temperament and thoughts, he does have some disgust. Dozens of students were quickly sorted by the sorting hat into the appropriate house. Now Ray was left alone in the aisle in the center of the hall. Professor McGonagall looked at Ray, who was standing alone under the steps, and then at the parchment scroll in his hand. He looked a little puzzled, as if he was comparing something. After a while, he asked, "Son, what's your name?" "Name? Ray, Ray Fasty." "Professor, what's the problem?" Ray was confused. He never thought that he would be the last in line, but now Professor McGonagall did not call his name, but asked his name. "Wait a minute, child." Professor McGonagall walked over to Dumbledore with the parchment, first showed Dumbledore the parchment, and then pointed to Ray. "Professor Dumbledore, there is no name of this child on this parchment." "What is the name of the child not on the parchment?" Professor McGonagall's words made the entire hall instantly quiet. At this moment, Ray, who was standing alone in the center of the aisle, immediately caught the attention of everyone when Harry Potter appeared. It wasn't just Professor Ray and McGonagall who were wondering. Senior students also began to discuss. How come there is no his name? Is he a muggle who got in? Damn muggle spy! I've heard that since the establishment of Hogwarts for so many years, there have been no omissions in the quill and parchment. Slytherin is really the most hated college. Among those students who think they are of the right blood, some people are the first to suspect whether Ray is a muggle who mixed in. Ray was a little panicked. To be honest, he thought about the possibility of being assigned to any academy by the Sorting Hat, and was ready to accept it. But he never thought that the list of freshmen in the hands of Professor McGonagall would not have his name. How many years have passed since Hogwarts started? This is the first time I have encountered such a problem. Professor McGonagall, I have the admission letter from the college here. Feeling that things were unusual, Ray immediately took out the admission letter and the ticket. Professor McGonagall took them up and handed them to Dumbledore. Touching the admission letter in his hand, Dumbledore couldn't see any suspicious expression on his face. He first looked at Ray, who was a little nervous, and after a long time he finally nodded to Professor McGonagall. "Okay, classmates, please be quiet." Professor McGonagall stopped the discussion in the hall, and then continued, "Ray Fasty, please sit up and conduct the sorting." Hearing such a voice, Ray breathed a sigh of relief. He was nervous just now, and he really felt like he was being sent back to the Muggle world. Sitting on the high stool nervously, Professor McGonagall put the old and dirty wizard hat on Ray's head. The sorting hat, big enough, nearly covered Ray's entire head. "Oh, you are a very special little guy. You feel so familiar to me, as if I've seen you somewhere before. Special little guy, you have courage, a smart mind, a very high talent, and at the same time, your heart is not bad. It's hard to make the best choice, so where do you want me to assign you? Where are you going?" "Well, which college do you want to study at?" "My son. Don't choose Slytherin." Ray spoke with the sorting hat softly, and he could hear Slytherin's discussion just now. It didn't matter which academy he went to, but after thinking about it now, he really didn't like Slytherin. "Okay, respect your opinion. But I suddenly remembered that this scar on the right side of my face seems to be related to you." The sorting hat kept chattering and said some outrageous remarks, but more of it was struggling to sort Ray into that academy. It seems that in every academy, Ray can be suitable, and he can achieve amazing achievements. Such a tangled sorting hat is very rare, far exceeding 5 minutes. This is hat embarrassment. I don't know if it was the student who knew the sorting hat very well, and then there was an uproar among the students. Some people asked what was embarrassing, and some people were surprised and surprised. The hat embarrassment is that the sorting hat has not been able to correctly assign the other party to any academy after more than 5 minutes. The whispered discussion soon drowned the entire hall, and Professor McGonagall had to speak again to remind the students to keep quiet. Soon, Professor McGonagall and Peter Pettigrew, when they were separated, had a history of hat embarrassment and were pulled out by a certain student. Hat's embarrassment undoubtedly stunned the appetites of all the students. They all thought in their hearts, who would end up with someone who was praised and embarrassed by the sorting hat, and how good would it be if they could be assigned to their own college? Of course, among these academies, except for Slytherin. They were pure-blood nobles and didn't need a muggle of unknown origin like Ray. Ravenclaw. Just as everyone was looking forward to it, with a loud shout, after the sorting hat struggled for a long time, it finally made a decision. Ooh! In the hall, there were not only warm applause, excited children, and some whistling. Ray was also a little excited that he finally became a student at Hogwarts. He trotted to Ravenclaw's long table and sat across from Agnes, and the two smiled at each other. Both of them wanted to talk about entering Slytherin, but in the end, they were assigned to Ravenclaw, which really surprised the other side. Mensha Gussie, Ravenclaw's prefect, welcome to join Ravenclaw. Hello, Ray Fasty, thank you for your welcome. The boy prefect's welcome made Ray understand a truth. Ravenclaw doesn't reject weirdos, preferring to find out, smart students. Such an academy is undoubtedly suitable for me. Ray was quickly integrated into Ravenclaw. Because of the warm welcome from his classmates at this time, it made him feel like he was coming home. However, looking at the long table, Ravenclaw seems to be a little bit weak, and the proportion of boys is only 1/3 of the total. After everyone welcomed them, a ding-ding sound suddenly sounded in the hall. The sound of the spoon hitting the glass caught the attention of all the students, and Dumbledore stood up. Everyone please pay attention, I am here to announce 3 things. First, please allow me to introduce our new Defense Against the Dark Arts class. Professor, Karbopoldorak. Following Dumbledore's explanation, a middle-aged man with grey hair in his 40s stood up. Thin face, pale face, but his smile is very kind. When he stood up and waved, people were a little worried about whether his body could hold on. Karbodoric, Ray had seen on the daily news, the Auror who was besieged by vampires, but he didn't expect him to become a professor of defense against the dark arts. However, his face has changed a bit, and he is not so thin in the news. At this moment, Ray was a little surprised, because then he could justifiably ask this professor for advice on how to deal with vampires. I know him. He is a powerful Auror. He killed several vampires not long ago. The students' discussion immediately resounded on the long table. What is an Auror? Aurors are wizards who specialize in capturing dark wizards and destroying dark creatures. After Karbopoldorak sat down, Dumbledore continued, First-year freshmen, please note that the Forbidden Forest outside the school does not allow students to step half a step, unless you want to be caught in it. The beasts shred and eat. Thirdly, the selection of Quidditch players will be held on the Monday of the second week after the semester begins. Captains of each academy are requested to report the names of their participating teams at that time. After announcing the precautions, Dumbledore waved his hands. Now, the banquet begins. At this moment, the empty plate on the long table suddenly appeared with all kinds of delicious food. At this moment, whether hungry or not, the aroma of the food stimulates the appetite. At the beginning of the banquet, the ghosts in Hogwarts seemed to be released, and they were running around everywhere. This is also their banquet, and it is also their rare pleasure to intimidate the freshmen. The little wizards were more or less exposed to magical things. Although they were frightened, they quickly got used to it. Among the many ghosts, the most frightening is the ghost sitting on the long Slytherin table. Hollow eyes, thin face, silver bloodstains on his robe, and a pair of shackles on his hands. He is like a devil, but he has a proud heart, and there is a place for him on the long table of Slytherin. He didn't intimidate the freshmen like the other ghosts, but even if he didn't act, just sitting there was scary enough. Ray took a few more glances, and his empty eyes were looking somewhere, as if he didn't care what was going on in the hall. Among the many ghosts, only he is like a real ghost, and he is also a scary evil ghost. Ding ding ding, after everyone was full, the sound of the spoon hitting the glass sounded again. This small voice, as if possessing magic power, once again successfully attracted the attention of the students. Now, after we're full, before going to bed, we sing our school anthem together, and everyone chooses their favorite tune. With a flick of Dumbledore's wand, the golden ribbon flew over the long table, revealing the lyrics of the school song, Get ready, sing. With his voice, the school songs of various tones mixed together, like a loud decibel noise, sweeping the entire Hogwarts castle. Ray also integrated into it, and came directly to the song "Lend Another 500 Years from the Sky," but the lyrics in it were replaced with the content of the Hogwarts school song. In such a noisy voice, Dumbledore was able to distinguish various tunes. When Ray sang "Borrow Another 500 Years from the Sky," he smiled and nodded in admiration. A decent command for Ray. The noisy singing finally ended, and after this moment, the students began to leave their seats. The prefect leads the freshmen to the Ravenclaw dormitory. However, at this moment, Barrow, the man who had been stunned, suddenly woke up. He suddenly turned his head and stared at Ray, who had just stood up. His sharp eyes were like knives. At this moment, Ray was shocked and felt like he was falling into an ice cellar. But fortunately, the blood man Barrow was only awake for a short time, and his sharp eyes quickly returned to turbidity after staring at him. While Ray was stunned, the Barrow stood up, then floated away. "Hey, are you all right?" Ray was really frightened. Agnes noticed the stunned Ray when he was leaving, and Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com asked in surprise. "Oh, it's all right. Really? Your face is not very good." "Well, it's fine. I just ate too much and swallowed a bit." Ray found a lame reason. Agnes was non-committal, and then greeted him and the team led by the prefect. "Everyone, pay attention, the ghosts are actually very friendly, but you should pay attention to Peeves among them." "Who is Peeves?" "A ghost who likes to play pranks." "No, he's not a ghost, he should be a ghost. He likes to play tricks on first-year freshmen very much." "Who is that ghost in handcuffs sitting at the long Slytherin table?" Regarding the prefect who was explaining, Ray asked his curiosity, and what he wanted to ask was the Barrow. Because the impression the other party gave him was too deep, it made him feel a little terrified, just like when he was a child in his previous life, he was frightened when he first saw Liao Zai. "Oh, that's the Barrow. He's Peeves' nemesis, so you just don't mess with him." "Why is he called Barrow the Blood Man? Why is the blood on his body silver?" Ray threw a question, and naturally a freshman immediately followed up and asked. "Hogwarts has too many curious things, and Ravenclaw has the most curious babies." In the memory of his previous life, Ray didn't seem to have seen the ghost of the Barrow in the movie. It can be said that, only hear its name, but see its person. Maybe I should have seen it, but it's been too long, and I don't have a single impression in my mind. This, no one knows. No one dares to ask, including those students of Slytherin. For this question, Menshagushev seems to be powerless. At night, when the students had all gone to sleep, Dumbledore's room was still lit with lights. In his hand he held a Hogwarts notice and a train ticket for platform 9 3/4. "And Professor McGonagall with a wizard hat is also here. Of course, here are the deans of the other 3 colleges. Professor Dumbledore, the last child today." Dumbledore put down the 2 things in his hand. "I know, Professor McGonagall, I know. But this notice and the train ticket are real. Tom at the Broken Axe wrote a letter to Dumbledore about something. A kid named Ray Fasty was robbed in Nocturne Alley, but escaped in the end. In the middle of this, traces of black magic appeared inexplicably. This made Dumbledore wonder if it was a sign of Voldemort, Tom Riddle's resurrection. Doubt is doubt, but what Dumbledore did not expect was that Ray Fasty was still a child who had no record of quill and parchment. Really? Hogwarts students have been recorded by quill pens and parchment scrolls since they possessed magical powers. They have never missed a beat for so many years. Why did this child suddenly appear? Phileas Flitwick, with a short stature and white hair, is the current dean of Ravenclaw, and he is naturally very concerned about this matter. Both the quill and the parchment were managed by the vice principal, Professor McGonagall. Naturally, he would not believe that Professor McGonagall made a mistake here. Perhaps someone with intentions used a spell to erase the child's name. Snape didn't see any superfluous expressions on his face, he just raised this possibility. The quill pen and the parchment scroll are items created by the 4 founders of the Academy with magic. The purpose is to count all the children born in the country who have magic power. It doesn't matter who has this ability, but even if he has this ability, what is the purpose of erasing this child? Besides, even if his name is not on the parchment scroll, he still gets an admission letter. A surprising thing, Dumbledore's words directly caused everyone to fall into contemplation. Professors, we have forgotten one person who also has the right to issue admission notices. Dumbledore's words after his silence immediately aroused everyone's suspicion. The admission of freshmen has always been recorded by quills and parchment rolls, and Professor McGonagall handles it. For so many years, there has never been a mistake, but at this time Dumbledore said that there is another person who also has this qualification, which really surprised the professors. The person I'm talking about is our Hogwarts College. The castle of Hogwarts is a living being born of magic, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it has autonomous consciousness. When Dumbledore said this, the 4, including Professor McGonagall, thought it was incredible, but Dumbledore was right. In a way, Hogwarts does qualify to issue admission letters on its own. Although Hogwarts Castle is a living entity, it is indeed a bit bizarre to issue an admission notice on its own. However, since it is a magical life form, no matter how incredible it is, it also proves that the 4 founders who gave life to Hogwarts are extraordinary wizards. In the evening, the 4 Hogwarts deans were in the principal's office analyzing the possibility of Hogwarts College's distribution of admission letters. And in the Bogenbach magic shop in Nocturne Alley, there are also people who are studying the black magic items they just got. Caractacus Bach, a little old man, the true owner of Borgenbach's magic shop. He hadn't appeared in the store for a long time. The last time he appeared in the store was when Tom Riddle was recruited as a clerk, and he appeared once earlier. It was from Tom Riddle's mother, who bought the Slytherin locket. Now, under normal circumstances, his servant, Borgen, does everything in the shop. Of course, most people would only think that Borkin was also one of the owners of this shop. At this moment, Caractacus Bach, sitting in the basement illuminated by only one candle, looked at the 5 incomplete mummified corpses placed in front of him. A mummified corpse, and a very fresh mummified corpse. Their facial expressions are full of fear, even if they are mummified corpses, they can be seen at a glance, and they died terribly. He stretched out his hand as hard as he could, like a drowning person. From the mummified body, Caractacus Bach, read such information. A drowned mummy was a bit contradictory to think about, but it really appeared in front of him, and there were 5 of them. They were not complete. They were found half a month ago, lying in the aisle of Nocturne Alley. Lying in the same position as he was, but a part of his body melted into the hard ground of the aisle. They disappeared completely. No matter how the people who collected the corpses dug the ground, they couldn't find the part where they disappeared. Therefore, none of the 5 mummified corpses were complete. This is the effect caused by black magic, but he, who is familiar with black magic and has a lot of knowledge, has no idea what black magic is causing it. Have you found out who they want to rob? Caractacus Bach, an emotionless voice sounded, which made Borgen, who had been standing beside him with his eyebrows lowered, tremble. No, master. It was getting late, and there were only these homeless people at the crossing. When the others arrived at the scene of the incident, their bodies were left. The trembling Borgen, his answer obviously did not satisfy the little old man Bouquet. Borgen, I haven't been in the shop for a long time, but don't forget, you are just a servant of this shop. With a hoarse and cold voice, Borgen, a person who loves cheap, kneels to the ground with a common voice, Master, the prophet's divination has no hint at all. The person they want to rob, no matter what magic is used, there is no flash. What happened at the time? Damn it! You only know greed. These people are just in the aisle. They have the guts to rob, Who else but children? Caractacus Bok let out a loud shout, and Borjin leaned back. He was afraid of his master, to the extreme. And the little Caractacus Bok was not much taller than he was kneeling on the ground. But even such a little old man can always give him a feeling of an abyss. His life, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com, seems to be between the thoughts of Caractacus Bok. Then master, what do you mean? Damn it, Borjin, don't you want this job anymore? Turn on your shit-filled head, since you're a kid, you're going to go to Hogwarts, and if you don't know what to do next, I can only end your extra life. After all, as a muggle, your life has seriously exceeded its original limit. The terrified Borjin climbed to the ground. He kissed Caractacus Bok's shoes like a dog. His submissive appearance was indeed an obedient pet. Master, please rest assured. I will definitely find that child and bring him to you just like I did when I seduced Tom Riddle. Hee, bitch, that kid Tom is not something you can seduce. People come to the door on their own initiative. If you are still so useless this time, then I don't mind changing to another muggle. After all, muggles are not in this world. Scarce items, not to mention muggles who want to live long enough, abound. Caractacus Bok kicked Borjin away, then turned and left. His black robe trembled, like ink like mist, and disappeared in a trance. In the huge basement, Borjin, the bright face of the master, was left kneeling on the ground. He stared at the place where Caractacus Bok disappeared in fear, and after confirming again and again that he had left, he slowly got up. At this moment, there was a knock on the door above the storefront. The sudden knock on the door frightened the nervous Borkin enough. Borjin Bok Magic Shop, the real income transaction is usually carried out at night. Because most of the things traded here are dark magic items.